Hi, welcome back to My Life with Plants. I'm Newman. Today we're going to have a look at some plants in the bedroom here. It's a nice sunny day. We've got a lot going on. And by the way, I live in Japan, so this is a YouTube channel all the way from Japan. So if you're new here, hi, welcome. And if you have been watching my YouTube, I have a lot of good growing tips, and I have a lot of experience growing plants all the way back since I was a little child. I would go to nurseries with my mum and my aunt, and I grew lots of plants that they bought for me. So the first one we have up is a Philodendron Brazil. Everybody has one. This one I've cut many times. It is a little lopsided. It tended to grow, wanted to grow this side, and it has been cut many times because it's actually gotten so long. I've had to trim it. And this one, even though it's winter, I still water it. I don't let it dry out too much. The temperature in here is about 20 degrees. Overall humidity is about 50%. Now tonight we're going to get a minus. It could be -1, -2 degrees. But as long as you get a warm enough sunny day, you should try to make sure that your plants are hydrated, they get water. Because if they dry out too much, and they get too dry, then that encourages pests like spider mites. Spider mites will attack anything that has lost its root system, or its root system is dying back. So I just make sure that I kept this well watered. And at the moment it's just once a week. It is in a self-watering pot. Even though it's in a self-watering pot, I still bring it to the sink and I still thoroughly drench the soil and let it drain out the bottom, and then I put the good water in, and the good water is the one that's been dechlorinized with fish tank dechlorinizer, and it has a little bit of liquid feed, just a little liquid feed. And at times I do add dolomite lime, and the reason why I add that is because I use my pH meter nose. I smell this soil, smells fresh, just like fresh soil you would get out of a nice garden that you've been planting your plants in. It just has a nice fresh rainwater smell. There's no bad smell or anything, because if there is, that tells me that this soil is getting too acidic and it needs the dolomite lime. Now dolomite lime isn't just for that. It provides calcium and magnesium and a few other minerals, and also it allows the plant to get back into its groove, which means that its root system is now active because it loves the nice medium pH in the soil, which is about 5.5 to 6, and a happy plant will draw up more nutrients and grow better roots. Anyway, you can see here that it's got some larger leaves. So this is the leaves that it had when it was repotted about a couple of years ago. So it's nearly into its 3rd year in this pot. Still growing good. It could keep growing in here for 10 years easy, because the soil is nice and healthy, and that is a sign, a good sign. And I do have predatory mites in here actually. I found some the other day, so everything is doing really well. This is a Rhipsalis. Don't have my glasses on, but it is a lovely little, quite cactus looking Rhipsalis actually, and it's growing in this it's still growing in its original pot that I bought it in, which is a kind of a peat moss. But it loves growing in it, so there's no need to repot it at all. And it does have the beginnings of a little bit of moss growing on the surface of the medium. I don't know if you can see through there or not. Maybe if I tilt this camera down, I might be able to have a peek. Maybe. Let me see. I don't know if you can peek in there or not, but it does have some moss growing in there. When I see moss, I always think happy plants. That's what I really think. Happy plants have a little moss growing in them. It means that the pH is good. Alright. I haven't showed this one very much, but it is hanging in the sunny window here. And it does have shade cloth up there too, because it can get too hot. And this one is Angraecum disticum, native to Africa. This particular one is very widespread, so it's found in almost all of the tropical countries, but not the desert. No desert areas. So this one is a one that grows in well-watered jungles and forests in Africa, places where it does get a lot of water, and it does have lovely white flowers when it does flower, but I haven't had mine flower yet. And it is growing in this little basket in moss, and actually inside this moss it is starting to grow. Another variety of moss is starting to grow in there, so that means it's nice and healthy. I like this plant because of its unique looking flattened leaves, and I just decided to grow it inside, but I could have grown it outdoors as long as it doesn't get too hot. I've shown this one many times. It's got lovely peduncles on it. And this is my Hoya Hindu rope, and it has massive peduncles right there, but it did flower off, and it even has a new growth. Now, ever since I decided that, hey, just watering my plant in there and just leaving it, I thought that I better change the way I water. Like I've been saying before, when I put my nose to it, it didn't smell too good. So that meant that the pH is getting all out, and so now I take it to the sink, as with all my other plants. I make sure that I give it a good water to flush out anything that's built up in there. And it does really help to keep the soil at a good pH. And because of that good work I did, it produced this whole new branch. So it's kind of been slow to grow, but now it's really starting to show that it's happy with that watering, the way that I'm watering it now, and it even flowered off from this new stem. So I was pretty happy about that. And it sits in a sunny window, and it does actually get too much sun during the summer, so I have shade cloth there. Those of you who like cacti, and how about a fairy castle? So this fairy castle I've had for going on maybe 5 years or more, and it has really grown. And this particular cacti, you can actually keep it moist. Don't let it go bone dry and then leave it bone dry. Just before it's starting to dry out, you can give it another water. They actually appreciate it being a tropical plant, but it is a monstrose, I'm pretty certain. But it's fantastic the way it grows. It can grow also. It can every single fairy castle has its own uniqueness, the way that it grows. So this one is growing really thick. You know, I could spend hours just staring at it. It's amazing. It's very easy to grow, very, very easy. It does require a liquid feed, of course. It'll let you know, it'll start to get yellowing, which means that it's not doing too well. A few leaves dropped there. Okay, I keep this as a house plant. It's a Haworthia. It says Haworthia spider. So it's Limifolia, but this particular Limifolia has this really outstanding white raised bumps on it that are even more than the usual Limifolia. And being a Haworthia, they tend to grow more in the winter. In the summertime they go dormant here because of the high temperatures, and they don't like that, so they go dormant. But when the weather cools down, they get into active growth. This one it's moist. I got watered a few days ago. It's in a well draining mix and hasn't produced any offsets yet, but it will in the future. At which point I will divide it when it does get too root bound. Okay, this next one is a Rhipsalis that I have in the living room. I gave it a good haircut, and I had all these pieces, and I put them into water and they rooted, and then I potted them up about last month, and I couldn't throw it away, so I found a nice spot for it to continue growing. And I really love Rhipsalis. They're a great plant, a fill-in plant between your other leafy plants to make your indoor jungle look really neat. And they do have little tiny flowers on it that are pretty magnificent. So it's easy to grow that from cuttings, very easy. Next one that I picked up while I was shopping is I found a Dracaena Silk-rosa. And this actually looks like bamboo, and it's a typical Dracaena, except this is a very, very small, compact, miniature one, but it can grow up to 20 to 30 centimeters high. But if you don't want it to get that high, you can actually trim it down. So being a Dracaena, it'll have lovely little white blooms on an inflorescence that are very sweet smelling. So I thought that was a magnificent plant. I love the variegation in it. And pretty sure that this is going to be an easy grower. And it was in hydroponics, so when I bought it, it was in a little tiny mesh plastic pot with lacquer balls. But I prefer soil because soil has good microbes in it, and I trust anything grown in soil. This next one has been growing a lot for me, and it's a smaller growing Sansevieria or Dracaena. I still call them Sansevierias. This one is called Grey Honey. Grey Honey has been putting out all this magnificent growth here. It was just half this size, and it's put out these offsets that have grown into nice full plant in this pot, and I potted it into average well draining potting mix mixed with Akadama, which is a red, very crumbly clay that does hold some water. It's not as sticky as clay that you get when you dig down into the soil in your garden. It's not that kind of clay. It's a volcanic clay, and they don't Sansevierias don't really require a lot of chunky mix or something like that. You should put them in a normal potting mix. They'll do much better, as you can see there. Trying to hold back a cough right now. Okay, moving along, an orchid. I've had this one in here for 2 years now. This is Miltonia DQ. It's just a hybrid between other Miltonias, but it is putting out new roots, during the winter time. It puts out its new roots. These bulbs were grown last winter and they're fully matured through the summer. In the summertime, you've got to take care with your watering. Don't overwater it. If you have temperatures that are going over 32 degrees, be careful. If you do want to grow it outdoors and it's a tropical, you live in tropical zones, you probably want to mount this. Growing it in a pot is a sure way to rot it. However, I'm growing this indoors. It's been doing really well. It even flowered. So this is Miltonia. Okay, next up I have another Sansevieria that I bought. So far this is the exact plant I bought. I only bought it about a couple of weeks ago. It's a cutting Sansevieria honey, yellow golden honey or something. It's a more golden form. You can see there. So it'll do really nicely in this potting medium. I've put it in a nice pot. Looks like bricks. Looking forward to it growing. As I put this one back, I will pull out something else. See if I can get it out. It's pretty tall though. Here we go. Oh, it's really tall. Sansevieria cylindrica. And this one was a gift from the neighbor. Gifted it to me, even in this pot. And it has been repotted already twice over the 5 or 6 years I've had it. Every time I do repot it, I divide it and try to give some away, but there's not too many people interested in plants around here. I have seen somebody down the road that has plants hanging up everywhere, and I've been wondering when I'm going to run into them. But this one grows really, really, really tall, so it's a great fill-in plant once again. There's actually 2 varieties in here. There's a more dark greener one. This is the one she gifted to me, and then there's one here that I mixed up in the pot too that I bought. And even in the winter time, yes, I do water it. Its potting medium has got a lot of pumice in it, but once again it doesn't require it. The next time I repot it, it'll be put in average potting mix. You don't require all of that drainage. A native habitat that just grow in ordinary soil. Okay, I managed to put that back without destroying anything. Next up is something that I really like. This is Letterboria socialis. And Letterboria has really neat bulbs in there. It's very bulbous at the bottom. There's these lovely green with silver silver blotches on the leaves here. And this one really loves the cooler temperatures. It's been really growing really well during these cool winter temperatures. During the summer it can look a little tired out and droopy. However, I won't push it and I won't water it too much, just in case I rot it. A lot of plants don't like temperatures over 35 degrees, let's face it. So this one is native to South Africa. It grows in dappled sunlight, usually underneath larger trees, and it does grow in a well-draining mix. However, this is just ordinary potting mix, nothing special. It likes a good watering when it gets dry. And once it does fill out this pot, it'll be time to divide it and give some away to somebody who loves plants. Bit of a dry cough now. So there it is there. Letterboria socialis. It's kind of fragile, so it can break pretty easily if you bend or twist the leaves. This one is still nothing much to look at, but it is jewel orchid, and I have repotted it, and I took all there were babies offsets, I potted them on together. Decided to change the mix to a more terrestrial mix. I did have it in sphagnum moss. It was growing well, but not well enough, I thought. So I took it out and I put it in a mixture of potting mix with akadama, and it's got pumice mixed in there too. It's kept moist, so when the surface starts to get dry, I give it a watering, and it's been doing really well. It's healthy, and it'll be just a matter of time before it really starts to fill out this pot. Next up, this is my Lepanthes Gaia. It's a hybrid between two Nepenthes, one native to Philippines, one native to Indonesia. There's really fantastic pictures on it. Look at that. Magnificent. It's showing some signs of cold. It's getting a little flushed out on the edges of the leaves. However, there's nothing much I can do about it. I do have bubble wrap against the window. And it gets down to about 10 degrees in here during the night. It's growing really well. No problems at all. I do feed it bugs. Close to the compost heap, there will be a lot of bugs roaming around. I kill them and put them in here so that the pitcher has something to eat. Fantastic plant if you don't have Nepenthes. All Nepenthes will start to elongate. Naturally, they grow, this center stem will get longer and longer and longer and longer, and then it will flower. At that stage, you can take cuttings and actually root them and grow more. You can even offset. So these particular plants can grow on limestone cliff faces. They grow as a lithophyte, which I already just said. What am I talking about? And also they grow on trees, epiphytic. They can even be found on the ground in pockets of well-draining soil. Quite fantastic, magnificent, strange plants they are. And it's so surprisingly easy to grow. No particular requirements except that you should make sure you use dechlorinizer in the water. You don't want to give it water with chlorine in it. What else can I show you? It's interesting. Well, I know what I can show you. I've been having a lot of success growing tillandsias. No big secret. In actual fact, if you find it hard to squirt them every day with water, then just try putting a little layer of sphagnum moss in a basket. Not so deep, just half an inch. Have your tillandsias just sitting on top of it, don't bury them in it. Just sitting on top of it, and then twist tie them on so that it keeps just a little bit more moisture for a little longer. Definitely don't want this buried in the sphagnum moss when it's wet. They like to dry out fast. So that's one way to get past that problem. They also require a lot of bright light, but not direct summer sun would burn them if they're not conditioned to it. So I water mine in the winter once a week, and in the summer up to 3 times. But it's not that hard. You can bring them down, take them to the sink, give them a good quick squirt. It's not like it's a hard job to do. And if you have been growing your tillandsia as well and they're happy, you might get rewarded. You might get a reward, like this one here. It's come into flower. It's Ionantha, and this one has lovely purple blooms on it. I don't know if it's focusing or not because I can't see. But a lot of tillandsias, when they do flower, they start to go orangey red on all the leaves. Being a tillandsia, this main plant will eventually die, but it'll take a long time. It can take up to 1.5 years, even that. It'll produce lots of babies on the bottom. So it's not really like it's dying, it's just putting its energy into offsets. And this one down here is called cotton candy, and they might have a different flowering time. These ones are just stuck onto this branch here. Yeah. So I got rewarded and I got flowers. Every space is taken up. Taking them down isn't that hard. It's just because I'm trying to show you that I have a system so I can take one down at a time without it being that difficult. This is a wreath, It has all sorts of tillandsias on it. I've been on here for nearly 2 years now. So they've been through the winter already, and I know they can get through it. And the very, very silvery ones, as you see here, tend to be more lithophytic. They grow on rocks, and they can tolerate drying out more than the greener ones. Especially this one here that's called Palacea. And Palacea is a tillandsia that grows in semi-desert in Brazil, in Argentina, I think. Argentina. And it grows in amongst scrub, xerophytic scrub grasses and stuff. And it does tolerate desert conditions. So this one definitely once a week is plenty enough water for it. It's absolutely packed with trichomes, which help to protect it against excessive heat. I'm looking forward to it flowering actually. I have introduced the other ones before on other videos, if you're wondering. Nasty dry cough. This is not much to look at yet, because it still has a long way to go, but I had to pick up this Hoya, and its name is Hoya CV, Cultivar Ruthii. There's your tag there. Ruthii. Ruthie. And this particular one is unusual because it has orangey yellow blooms, and they're actually quite large, about that big. It just has glossy green leaves, and cultivar, meaning that they discovered that it was quite different while they were cultivating Hoyas, and they singled this one out. So it has flowers that actually remind me of a lot of Stapelias, and being in that family, the Asclepiadaceae, which includes Hoyas and Ceropegias. This one does have a flower that reminds me a lot of a Stapelia, but it does have a nice fragrance. So this one, it's really healthy and growing well, and it's in this pot here so that it can keep a little bit of extra water, because I think it requires it, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. Especially when the spring comes and it gets going into growth there. This has a mixture of tillandsias. It's got a tillandsia capitata peach. It has this one. Bucci. And Bucci is very frickly, speckly one that actually houses ants in nature, but this grows into a big tight clump of a plant which can be really large, and ants like to find their way and make homes inside those, so they have little hollow areas somewhere inside there where the ants live. This one is Celsiana, the one that's on the angle here, and they are just sitting on the sphagnum moss. So when they get water, they just got a little bit more access to water so that it's not drying out too quick. But like I said, don't bury them in it. This is nothing new, but I do like Tillandsia usinoides. I love it a lot. Especially those little orange flowers are so fragrant. Having these in your collection just makes it look so much more full in your indoor garden. Here's one of my favorite ones that I made, and this one is sphagnum moss too. Everything's just sitting on it or around it. So if they do require a little bit more moisture, they can get it, or humidity, because it does, without it, they do dry out quite fast. We've got some really interesting ones here, like this one that's got a lot of red. Can't quite read it, this one's name. Some of them did lose their tags. I just need to look them up. I got one bulbosa here. It's very bulby on the bottom, like an octopus. Bailey here. I think, what are you? Let me see. Caput medusae. This one here is Caput medusae. This is a much greener one of a Tillandsia. I'm hoping it'll root into there and then I don't need the twist tie holding it on. So there's a neat way that you can display your Tillandsias in hanging pots. Once again, they're not buried in it, they're just sitting, touching that. Okay, this big plant here is a Hoya Matilde. And why is it wearing a cape? Like a superhero. It's the winter sun is very intense in that window. It actually just stresses it out too much, so because of all that excessive sun that it doesn't require, I just hang this around there during the winter, so it just gets bright light. And it's been doing much better that way. During the summer I don't need to worry about it because it's more humid, tropical and overcast, cloudy, and the sun is in a different position, but it has been growing, yeah. You can see here, these are new, and it's in the self-watering, it's in terracotta, inside there, that holds water, because it's a bit of a drinker, it loves water. Yeah, it's been doing really well. It's actually an old plant. I've had it for many years now, and I have taken cuttings off and grown others and given them away. It has this spectacular flowers. Maybe not my favorite fragrance, but pretty unusual. The first time it flowered, I thought it smelled a lot like floor cleaner than a flower. So it wasn't such a, it's quite unusual, and it's quite kind of like a mixture between floor cleaner and peppermint and aniseed all mixed together. So it's pretty hard to get used to. Once you do get used to it, you actually do think that it is not such a bad fragrance after all. I don't know what it attracts. some bugs that love that smell, they must be very specific. And I have no idea what its parent's plant smells like, because it's a hybrid between Hoya, what was that one now? It's on the tip of my tongue, and it's native to the Nepal. There, and one other one. So I don't know what the fragrance takes after, actually. Okay, this next one is too big to drag out, so we will bring the phone over. You can see there that we have a bud coming up. And it's a nice thick one. This is one of my biggest fowls. Have a look in there in the root system. All these roots coming out, in and out of the pot. This thing will never need repotting, ever, until the point that it's so stretched and elongated it might need to be cut. It's a nice big plant, and it's actually right next to Peperomia Hope. Peperomia Hope, I was watering it the last week and I accidentally broke off one of its long stems. So I turned it into cuttings, a bit like this one. These are cuttings that have rooted really well into some sphagnum moss. It's actually got moss growing in there. You can see. So this is a giveaway plant for somebody who loves plants. Maybe that neighbor down the road, if I do run into them one day, I would give that away to them. They'll be happy. I would. I love this plant. This Hoya here has no name. I don't know what it is. And it wasn't that it wasn't labeled. It was just labeled with Hoya on it. They didn't specify. Lovely big leaves on it, and once again it does have the cloth for two reasons. It doesn't particularly like the cold, this one, and it is close to a window, so this is enough to actually get it through the winter, believe it or not. All it requires is just a little cover, and it'll get through the winter healthy. And once again, I don't stop watering, and it has pushed out these two vines here. One of them's kind of died back on the tip. This one's still growing well, so it's still actively growing. This one is Hoya I forgot the name. It's a very common one, but I was very happy to see this at the plant nursery. There's only really one supplier that cultivates and sends these out, and this one I saw it was just one. I think everyone else bought the rest of them. It's been growing really well here for me. Did send up some tendrils that died on the tips. One thing that they don't like to be pushed in a different direction. So if they tend to be drooping, a drooping Hoya, and you try to fix it up and tie it to a trellis, you're probably going to notice that those vines will die back. It'll sense that this is a waste of time growing in that direction, and it'll die back. But if you let them grow the way that they want to grow, and you support that action, you probably won't have the tip dying on you. It's just something I noticed with Hoyas. This one here is Hoya Sunrise, and you can see these lovely deep colors that it gets. So I haven't covered this one up. It can handle quite a lot of sun, but wow, do its leaves sure redden up. And another great thing about this particular hybrid is its flowers are so fragrant. I love them, and it flowers a lot. It's one of the most prolific, abundant flowering Hoyas I have. For that reason, I've propagated it quite a lot. Yeah, it's magnificent. And this one here is the Hoya Crimson Princess. It's also got the self-watering pot there. This one I do keep water in it. I notice that it's a drinker, loves to drink a lot. But once again, I do bring it to the sink when I water it, because if I don't, notice it doesn't grow so well. So it needs a good flush out. If there's any salts or anything built up, that's put the pH out of whack. And then I refill it with the good water after I flushed it out. Flushing out means that I let water run through it on the tap until it overflows on the side, and then I'll tip it all out, and that should get rid of any built up salts, because it does require fertilizer like any other plant to grow well. And it has this whole stem here to show you that it's happy. It's like shot right up, and I'm trying to support it on the hook here. So it is a happy plant, and it has a peduncle. You can see right there, but so far I haven't been able to get it to fully flower. It likes to abort a lot. This is a piece that I cut off and that I reverted back to a typical Carnosa. I just decided to cut that piece off for two reasons. It wasn't putting any energy into this part of the plant. It had shriveled away. And I cut it off, and I thought it might live, and it did. Now it's all healthy and starting to grow. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to grow this part and see how much better it flowers than its variegated form over there. Alright. I've been trying not to cough. I've got a tickly throat there a little bit, but I'll be fine. I'll recover from it really quick. Anyway, this has been a tour of my plants in the bedroom. And there's a full shot of how they all look. I enjoy this very, very much. Makes me happy. I think it looks magnificent. I love it. And I also love sun catchers. I'm always shopping for sun catchers. I really love sun catchers. Got one there, one over here too. You can see one shining at the moment up there, and the sunlight comes in. There's another one right there. I hope you enjoyed watching, and if you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and we'll be back for more updates with the orchids and everything. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time. Bye bye.